Hello, folks, and welcome back to the Dynasty 365 podcast, part of the Fantasy and Frames podcast network and the fantasyandframes.com family. We are back from a short two-week hiatus. We wanted to take a little bit of time off before we really got into the grind of the regular season. I think we're all feeling refreshed and ready to go. I am joined by my co-host, Jorge Edwards. Jorge, how you doing, man?
You know, as soon as I hit play to start our intro video, I totally forgot that we changed music right before we went on hiatus. And I totally forgot we changed it to that before hiatus. And that definitely perked me up. I'm like, oh, wow. Okay, let's go. Let's do this. Let's have some fun. I'm doing well, by the way. Thank you very much for asking. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I know how you feel. I was about to get up from my chair and start dancing some salsa.
Nice. Love it.
So
that's what everybody associates Dynasty Fantasy Football with, some salsa. It's
yes,
perfect. As they should. Exactly.
Hey, that's the film we're going for, right?
The cruise.
So we are joined by a couple of our guests from the Fantasy and Frames family. Number one is Zach Berger. He is part of the Fantasy and Frames family, also part of Triple Play Fantasy and Club Fantasy. Zach, how you doing?
Good. How's it going tonight, guys?
Wonderful. Happy to have you on. We are also joined by Charlie Cangelosi.
Got it.
True pro.
I was about to trip up over it. As soon as I looked at it, I was like, oh, crap, I think I forgot.
All good, man.
Good. How you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. Happy to be here. Happy to talk some Dynasty.
Oh, yeah. Nothing better. So what we are going to be doing tonight is we're going to be covering some off-season risers and fallers. We're going to hit a couple guys at each position. I would say some of these guys have been targets for you over the past couple months as you've moved into your season, moved out of your rookie drafts. And if they have not been, and maybe your league hasn't really kicked up into high gear with trades yet, now's your chance. So before we get into that, we're going to cover some of the news that's happened in the past couple weeks. I'd say the biggest headline has been Baker Mayfield has moved on from the Browns. He's been traded to the Carolina Panthers for a conditional 5th-round pick. The Browns took on about $10 million of his salary. Baker at some point took a pay cut because he's only getting paid $5.5 million by the Panthers. But anyway, outside of my nerdy salary cap information, how you guys feeling about Baker to the Panthers and the Panthers' weapons? What do you think, Jorge?
Well, I love this for DJ Moore for obvious reasons. This guy is the wide receiver one of this team. He is a target monster. The touchdowns they haven't been there. They haven't been there in terms of what our expectation has been of him over the course of career. Go Maryland, by the way. The acquisition of Baker Mayfield. And I don't know this for sure because I wasn't watching the press conference or I haven't been glued into the news. But I don't know if he's actually been given the job or if he still has to compete with Sam Darnold. Assuming that he does win out the job, this elevates DJ Moore tremendously. I don't know whether it elevates other receivers, but definitely DJ Moore is definitely going to feast going forward. So I'm excited. If I'm a Carolina Panthers fan, it's like, hey, this is not going to be a completely horrible team to watch all season. I mean, they may not win a lot, but at least it'll be entertaining.
Yes, absolutely. He has not been given the job officially, which in my opinion is just insanity. I know how bad Baker was last year. Trust me, I've watched it, but I've also seen Sam Darnold play football and then, Matt Corral.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So next little piece of news that we have to cover. I don't know if it's necessarily news, but I mean, it's an injury update. J.K. Dobbins just quote tweeting Ian Rappaport on Twitter saying, I'm tired of being quiet, just like actually getting pissed for some reason, saying he might not go on PUP. Does this change your view of J.K. Dobbins going into the season, Zach?
No. I would still have cautious optimism because even if he isn't on the PUP, that doesn't mean he's 100% fully ready to go. And it's going to be like ground and pound right away. So it would be great to see him not be on the PUP in training camp. But if he goes on the PUP in training camp, that still doesn't affect necessarily his regular season. So it's nice to see him excited and fired up. But how many times have we should not trust the player when they say, "Oh, I'm healthy," or "I'm going to play." So cautious optimism.
The competitive spirit of them just doesn't want to give up. I got you.
Hey, I'm just ready to see Tyler Beatty roll out there and just get some starts at the beginning of the season.
Don't they have Mike Davis?
I'm excited to see Tyler Beatty roll out there and get some starts at the beginning of the season.
They were rolling out dusty running backs last year, so
yeah,
I bet it'll be Mike Davis first.
Here's the thing: are we all forgetting about Gus Edwards? Does he have no value?
Oh, he has a lot of
an
value.
ACL. Yeah,
I mean, yeah, well, he is. Yes, he is coming off of an ACL, but I feel like that's a name that people are just kind of like throwing under the bus. They're not really paying attention to because, hey, he's the other running back who tore his ACL, who was actually really good with inside the 5-yard line when, aka when in scoring position for the Ravens. So I don't know. Maybe there's a window now because there's just no one talking about him that you can maybe buy low on him and kind of turn that around if he's able to come back to form.
I think there's absolutely a window. He has been basically free. I mean, I've been in multiple drafts recently, and I think I can't even tell you which round he went in Scott Fishbowl. It was the late teens at some point. Yeah, and it was to me, but yeah, so I'm right there with you, Jorge.
Love it.
A couple other quick news hits. This really isn't news, but they've started talking about Alvin Kamara again. If everyone has forgotten, he got into a little dust up in Vegas in February, and I don't know if I'd call it a dust up because I saw the guy's face and what he did to him, and it was pretty bad. Kamara this year seems like a contender player. Am I right? So, I guess, what are you doing with that, Charlie? Are you looking to acquire him if you're a contender, regardless of a possible suspension, or are you easing off?
Yeah, I mean, in Dynasty formats, I would look to try to get Kamara. He's definitely going cheaper now with the looming suspension, possibly 6 games. I've been seeing that number thrown around. But even if he does get that 6-game suspension, he's going to last a lot longer than these other running backs, at that age range because of his pass catching ability, and he's just so elusive. Like he's a generational talent at the running back position. So if you're a contender or a playoff contender, I don't really see any reason not to get Alvin Kamara if he doesn't pan out this year. If he only plays 12 games or 11 games next season, he should have a great season. So I think Alvin Kamara is definitely a buy right now.
All right. And a couple other things. Dalton Schultz and Mike Gesicki, they are going to be playing on their franchise tags. They did not come to a long-term agreement, so we will see what happens with them. And the next big conversation has been Jimmy G. My opinion that looking at the salary cap numbers, he's on the last year of his deal. He would be almost a $27 million cap hit for the Niners. If they cut him outright, they would save $25.5 million against the cap. So they are extremely incentivized to cut him. I don't think anyone is going to trade for him. I don't think anyone is going to pay any kind of capital to take on a $25 million cap hit when a team that, if they don't want him, is just going to cut him. Would you guys be looking to buy Jimmy G at all right now? Do you think he'll end up in a starting situation?
Well, speaking of his contract, I did just see an article that with that cap hit of $25 million, if a team trades for him because he's in his final year, he can basically renegotiate his contract with them, and they can offer him basically more guaranteed money to lower that salary cap hit. There's some cap magic they can do where he can get some more guarantees and they can lower the cap hit. But for starting wise, I think the only obvious one to me is Seattle, and I don't see that being a trade, just in division. Otherwise, I don't see another starting job open right now, unless we're talking Cleveland potentially with that potential suspension there. But I don't know if they'll make a trade. I don't know how much money they want to invest with Jimmy G as well.
Yeah, don't put that out there, Zach. I'm looking at one of my dynasty rosters right now at quarterback, and that's a position that it's super flex that I punted, which was stupid, because I got Russell Wilson as my starter. My 3 other quarterbacks: Kyle Trask, Teddy Bridgewater, and the aforementioned Jacoby Brissett. We don't need Jimmy G going to Cleveland, screwing up my roster, getting Jacoby Brissett out of my starting lineup. Just leave it alone, Tyler or Zach. Leave it alone. Don't put that out there, please.
Well, I don't know if it helps Jorge, which it probably shouldn't, but I agree with Zach. I don't think he's going to be at least traded to Seattle. I would be surprised.
But the fact that they're saying go seek out a trade, I mean, this is confirmation. Like, this is Trey Lance's squad going forward. This is him. There's no longer any like concern of like, well, if Garoppolo's healthy and they're both healthy in training camp, are they both gonna? No. It's time to move on to the future, and that's what they're doing in San Francisco.
Yeah,
They should never have been concerned, but yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys have seen, like, a lot of 49ers players are like commenting on people's posts about Trey Lance is going to bust. Like, oh yeah, sure, he's totally going to bust. Like, they're very confident in this guy. Like, they're behind him 100%. So I'm really hyped up for Trey Lance.
Brendan Ayuk's shade at his IG post with this is only the 3 throws because then his arm got tired.
Yeah, he was fast after that. Yeah.
That's awesome. I didn't see that.
Oh man. Well, I hope Trey Lance does what everyone thinks he's going to do, because more good players in the NFL is more fun. And side note on that, the Seahawks only have 16 million in cap space, and Jimmy G's cap hit after traded would be 25.
Yikes. Yeah, so that ain't happening.
Yes,
because they paid all their tight ends.
So before we get into our risers and fallers, we are going to review our Four-Eyed Championships. That is the Fantasy and Frames charity tournament that we do each year. We have 4 divisions this year. We have my division, Mighty Thor; Zach's division, Valkyrie; Jorge took the Thor division, and Nate Markham has the Korg division. So, Zach, how's your draft going?
So, I mean, Valkyrie's flying through right now. We're at the end of the 13th round, so it's been a lot of fun. I'm not gonna lie, I have very little experience in IDP. I did an IDP best ball last year. This is an IDP best ball as well. So I'm taking in all the great information on fantasyandframes.com.
There you go, Zach.
All of our episodes. Yep, we got company man.
That's right.
Trying to learn, but value wise, it's kind of hard to guess. It was really fun. Ryan Weiss, who won I think 2 years ago, he won't let you forget it. He's in my division, and he's been talking TJ Watt up for months now. I work with him at Club Fantasy as well. And so I was going to take TJ Watt way too early just to spite him. And he outsniped my snipe by taking him in the 2nd round. So it was off to a blistering start from there. It's been a lot of fun.
Nice.
And what about you, Jorge? How's Thor division going?
So we just wrapped up, or we are about to wrap up the 8th round. It's going well. We're doing about a round and a half a day, so it's not like going as fast as Valkyrie is, but it's very interesting. Somebody who does have experience with IDP, I was the very last team to take an IDP to start us off, just because I kept on seeing so much value on offense. I'm like, I can't pass up this. I can't pass up that. Case in point, one of the benefits of this tournament is that it's very tight end premium. So you I think, Tyler, you said it yourself. For a 10-yard pass, you get 3.5 points because of the first for her first down, and then for the half PPR, and then the point tight end bonus. So I went 2 tight ends in my first 4 picks. I got Mark Andrews and I got George Kittle. That wasn't originally my strategy, but being called a pussy by you in our Slack chat for not going Mark Andrews and Travis Kelce back to back. No, you didn't say that. You said you called me a coward.
Yeah.
Either way, you were right. Okay. That following round, I came back. I'm like, you know what? Screw this. I'm not going to listen to Tyler. I'm going to take another tight end. So I went George Kittle. Anyhow, so I got Najee, Keenan Allen, David Montgomery. I went early with Patrick Mahomes, whatever. Allen Robinson, who I'm expecting big things from this year. And I went to Devondre Campbell with my most recent pick at linebacker, who's just a stud tackling machine for the Green Bay Packers. So it's going well.
Good. And my division, Mighty Thor, is really just crushing it. We have not quite got through 5.5 rounds yet. So we're really we're just enjoying the ride.
Nice.
My team has got off to a nice little start. Went Kyle Pitts. I think he could have a huge year. Running backs are Dalvin Cook and Breece Hall. Wide receiver T. Higgins. And seeing Zach's league have TJ Watt go in the second motivated me to take him in the third. So I rolled with that.
Great value. Great value.
Yes. Most importantly, what charities are you guys playing for?
So I, in previous seasons, had been playing for the Brain and Behavior Foundation. It's just like a foundation that focuses on mental health awareness and mental health programs and research behind that. And while I will probably, if I end up winning, donate some of my money to that, I'm switching my charity this year to the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, just because it's just horrible what individuals have to go through who have cystic fibrosis, and I don't think enough has been mentioned about them. It's horrible, and I wish that there's something that we could do to help these individuals who have this improve their quality of life, improve their outcomes. So that's who I'll be fighting for this year.
Awesome. What about you, Zach?
Sure. So I'm representing the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. So they're a great cancer research group. A huge chunk of their donations go to cancer research, which is great because not all other charities can say that. And then I chose them because my father has had Hodgkin's lymphoma twice now. He's now since been cured since he's beyond 5 years. But he had it I think we're going like 12 years now ago. And then he was in remission for a few years, and then it came back. So fortunately, there is treatment out there to help him. He was able to fight it. He's now cured, but we're still fighting, obviously, for a better cure for more cancers out there. So happy to represent that charity.
Awesome. I love it. And I am competing for the Boys and Girls Club of Central Florida. I think everyone has a pretty good idea of what the Boys and Girls Clubs does. It helps kids that might not have a mother or father or big brother or big sister figure, and really tries to give them more of a chance to succeed in life. My grandfather-in-law, who's very important to me, passed away a few years ago, and he was participating in Boys and Girls Clubs up until he passed away in his early 80s. So it was something that was very important to him, and I always appreciate a good local charity. So living in Orlando, I wanted to do something that would benefit Central Florida.
Very nice.
All
And
right.
that's what this tournament is all about. It's about giving back. It's about representing people that are in need or organizations that are in need. A lot of if not a huge inspiration is of course Scott Fish and the Scott Fish Bowl that's going on right now in terms of the drafts that are going on. He set the standard, and we're just obviously we're not at the level of a Scott Fish Bowl, and I don't think that's ever going to be our intention. But our intention is to give and to give back to those in need out there. So we're really proud of having this tournament for 3 years running now. So everybody who's participating and sharing the news and retweeting and all that stuff to get awareness on it, really appreciate that.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how the season turns out, and whoever wins, it'll be great because it's going to benefit somebody.
That's right.
So let's go ahead and jump into some off-season risers. This is always a fun one to discuss. I'm going to start with quarterback. Let's go with you, Charlie. Who is your off-season riser for quarterback?
I mean, we just mentioned them before. I'm going to go with Trey Lance. They're trying to get rid of Jimmy G. Obviously, he's not the guy he once was. Trey Lance, he's got that deep throwing ability. He's got that running out of the pocket ability. The team behind him is very confident in his abilities, making jokes on social media. So for me, it's going to be Trey Lance, and he's relatively cheap for quarterbacks right now if you're drafting or if you're trying to trade for him. So definitely try to get him for either your backup or if you're risky like me, you're starting quarterback. So,
But what are you paying for Trey Lance right now?
Well, I mean, not really saying that I have him on my team, but if I were to grab him from my team, I would probably start him. That's just kind of how I would roll. I try to start Trey Lance and then get position players to fill out my roster. That's just kind of how I roll.
Yeah, that's a That's a favorite question of mine right now, especially because this 2023 upcoming class has been very, very highly touted. And these 23 picks are gold right now. Nobody wants to trade them. So, is Trey Lance worth 23 first to you? I don't know. But
I don't know. Maybe one. I don't know. I don't know about two. Two is pretty pricey for me. But
gotcha. Well, you would not be getting Trey Lance from me for 1 first. I know that.
Probably 1 first, then some player. I got to do the math on that later. But
Yeah. Let's do one more quarterback. Jorge, what do you got?
For risers, I got Derek Carr. Like, it's finally starting to come around to people. Like, he has Devontae Adams, he has Darren Waller, he's got Hunter Renfrow. They have Josh McDaniels pulling the strings on offense. I hear he's good with offenses and getting them going. Ask Tom Brady. No, I'm not saying Derek Carr is Tom Brady, but you get what I am saying, that this offense is going to be explosive. And generally, when you have good receiving options, we get to a player that does not have good receiving. Well, we'll get to a player that is the counterpoint to this in a little bit. But generally, when you have good receiving options, your quarterback's doing pretty well for you in fantasy. And to see him on the rise is great, but it's not great because those who are looking at him as a value in their fantasy drafts, whether it's going to be in dynasty startups or in redraft down the road, that may not, make you so happy. But he's definitely starting to pick up some steam there in dynasty.
Yes, and I've been a unapologetic Derek Carr fanboy for like half a decade. I'm glad he's finally getting some weapons and getting some respect. I think this might be the year he actually breaks into the top 10 of fantasy quarterbacks. He's been hanging around that number for his whole career. All right. Well, Derek Carr, Trey Lance, let's hope they can have some good seasons. Let's cover a running back. Zach, I know you had one you wanted to cover.
Yeah, so again, Company Man put out an article back at the end of May for Travis Etienne and tried to get everyone to hop on board then before all these camp blurbs started coming out and videos of him looking great, because around then he was around RB19. I think he's creeping up to RB16, RB14 now, which still I think is good value for him, but you're paying more now. So he's definitely rising up. I think people forget how dominant he was at Clemson because he missed his whole rookie year with an injury. All signs point that he's healthy. He's going to be ready to go. And he's back with his college quarterback with Trevor Lawrence, who dumped down the ball a lot to him, and ETN was able to run it now. That's college and it's ACC. No shade on the ACC. I'm a Virginia Tech Hokie, but the competition is different. But still, I don't see much competition for touches on that offense right now at the running back position. And I just see him being a PPR monster. And he's still pretty cheap in relative terms for such a young running back asset in Dynasty.
Yes. Are you not worried about James Robinson coming back healthy at any point in the first month or two?
No. That's assuming he comes back and comes back healthy. I mean, yes, Cam Akers came back from an Achilles, but he still didn't look great. And now he's had a lot more time rest. But Achilles are not an easy injury to come back from. He could be back and still not really be 100% for the entire year. And this new coaching staff did not draft, honestly, either of these players, but James Robinson was a undrafted free agent. So there's really no loyalty to him. So he has to earn it. And that would not push me away from ETN. And you have to also be a little more long-sighted, if that's even a word, in Dynasty, where even if you have to deal with him sharing a little bit this year, ETN is still going to be the running back next year, which I don't see James Robinson really being a competition next year either.
I feel like you're right. I understand what you're saying. I agree with you about ETN. I feel like you're writing off James Robinson a bit. He's been one of the better running backs for the past 2 years in the NFL, and he's still young. He's still under contract. I mean, we'll see what happens. I think he could be a asset in that running game.
If it was an ACL and not an Achilles, it'd be a completely different story. But the Achilles just scares me too much.
Gotcha.
But his buy window right now is probably as low as it's going to get, and it depends. Let me start over. If ETN starts balling out to start off the season, you're going to see Robinson's window decrease just because everybody's going to be focused on ETN, and that's going to go through the roof. And with the Achilles injury, I believe that happened, I forget, towards the latter half of the season. I don't know. I don't remember exactly which week it was.
It was around week 15-ish.
Right. So you're expecting him, if he's going to come back at all this year, to be one of those late season waiver wire pickups or people that, in redraft leagues and then in dynasty leagues, whose value is going to skyrocket when he comes back, if he's able to perform at the level that we're hoping that he does. But yeah, I would throw out a flyer at whoever has ETN in your dynasty league, Robinson in your dynasty league, just to see what they're willing to give up for him or want for him, and you never know. You would never want to not take a chance on some asset that's been playing very well the past few seasons, and maybe not this year, but you got to think about a couple of years down the road where he's going to be.
Yeah, I agree. Let's move on to a wide receiver because I'm actually pretty excited to talk about one of these guys. What I am going to ask first, because I'm pretty intrigued by what Charlie has to say about his riser at wide receiver.
Yeah, it's a bit of a wild card pick, but just hear me out. My offseason riser for wide receiver is going to be Marquez Valdez Scantling for the Kansas City Chiefs. And I'll tell you why. I'm pretty sure we're all aware Marquez Valdez-Scantling is a pretty solid deep threat. Patrick Mahomes, one of the better deep ball quarterbacks in the league. For deep ball passes in between the numbers last season, Pat Mahomes had a 132.6 NFL passer rating, 94.8 PFF passing grade, and his ADOT was 34. MVS between the numbers and deep ball passes in 2020, because he dealt with a lot of injury 2021, 135.4 NFL passer rating when targeted, 85.8 PFF receiving grade, and his ADOT was 40.7. MVS also had an 86.1 PFF grade for hand drops last season. That's 10th best among wide receivers with 45% of 189 targets. And he also had the best ADOT among those same wide receivers, 45% of 189 targets. He had an 18.2 ADOT last season. So, I mean, pretty crazy pick for a lot of people, but I think that if Marquez Valdez-Scantling can, produce, with these stats provided, I think he could be a wide receiver one in Kansas City. And there's been reports and OTAs and all that him and MVS, Mahomes and MVS, have had really, really strong connection. So I say, why not? He's incredibly cheap for wide receiver. So I personally got him for a 2023 second round pick. So, I mean, that's pretty cheap in my eyes.
I like it. I think, in my opinion, from what I've seen, what everyone has seen, he's been really inconsistent with Aaron Rodgers. I'm hoping he can really pick it up in consistency this year. Do either of you guys feel strongly, Jorge, Zach, about the MVS value?
I would say by definition, he is a riser in the fact that his value is now gone up, even though obviously Aaron Rodgers is great. But now not playing alongside Devontae Adams, there is no dominant receiver on the roster that at least stands out. Obviously Kelsey's there as the tight end. But I would just consider he's obviously seems like a riser, but I think we'll know, I would say pretty quickly, where his pecking order is. But right now when you're speculating, his value is definitely increased. Do I trust it? Not necessarily, but if you do have that conviction, then now's the time to get in, because as Charlie said, if he starts playing well, is that deep threat, and he keeps finally catching the ball and Mahomes is hitting him, his value is only going to skyrocket. So if you really believe that he's going to hit that, then get him now.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens. I do not have him much of anywhere. Maybe I'll go out and try to acquire him in one league and hope for the best. So my wide receiver that I'm very excited about this year is Rashad Bateman of the Baltimore Ravens. I don't know if you guys watched a lot of him at Minnesota. He was a very good receiver in Minnesota. It's the University of Minnesota, where he was drafted out of by the Ravens last year in the first round. So high draft capital. All the moves the Ravens have made say that they trust him to be their wide receiver one. They traded away Marquise Brown for a center, essentially. and they are leaving him out there all alone with only James Prochet and Devin Duvernay and Tylan Wallace to assist him. So, I think this is going to be a Rashad Bateman and Mark Andrews show in the passing game for the Baltimore Ravens. And he was a little inconsistent during his rookie season. You can't really blame him. He didn't have a camp. He didn't practice before the season due to a core muscle injury. He didn't come back until over a month into the season when he finally did come back. Lamar went out hurt. He never got a chance to build chemistry with him. And I think the Ravens spoke volumes with their actions when they got rid of Marquise Brown and trusted Bateman without bringing any extra guys in. So I'm very excited to see what he can do in that new run-first Baltimore offense.
It's interesting if you go back and you look at the target distribution of when both Brown and Bateman were on the field at the same time. There was a shift. There was a shift from going from Marquise Brown to Rashad Bateman. Whatever he brings to the field, Lamar Jackson's all about it. And it's a shame that we didn't get to see both of those wide receivers flourish in this Ravens offense. But I think you're 100% right. Rashad Bateman, and Mark Andrews, those are the two.
Yes.
They're the only two. We don't have to line up anybody else on the Ravens offense. Those are the only two you need to worry about.
Yes. There's been a lot of clamoring of who's going to be the wide receiver 2 in the Ravens offense. And to that, I say, who cares?
The ball boy who catches the errant passes that are thrown out of bounds, because that's as far as it's going. So
yes. All right. Last but not least, tight end. We need a riser at tight end. Jorge, what do you got?
I got Zach Ertz. His ADP has been going up slowly but surely this offseason. Everyone's starting to remember, hey, DeAndre Hopkins, he's not gonna be there for 6 games, and everybody's I preface this by saying I think people are trying to get on the Zach Ertz bandwagon now because they're going to remember that halfway through the season, or a little bit halfway before the season, Hopkins is coming back, and Zach Ertz isn't going to get those 9 to 11 targets a game he was getting towards down the stretch last year that made him so viable as a fantasy tight end. So it's one of those things we always talk about in Dynasty. There's the win now teams. There are the teams that want to build for the future, and those that are in between. And I definitely think the reason why you're seeing Zach Ertz's ADP rise is because it's those win now or in contention teams in Dynasty that really want to just get their guy and just hope that leads them to a championship this year. I expect that to die down pretty soon, but for now he's on the rise. So that's where I'm going with that.
I like it. He's going to be a big part of that passing game. No new Hopkins. Marquise Brown is going to be new to that offense. And then Rondale Moore and AJ Green, none of which excite me very much. So, I think he'll be a big part of it. Oh, Gator J's here. Thank goodness.
Yeah, exactly.
You better apologize for being late.
Did you bring your Gator for those, please, who have seen the other guys? Have any of you guys seen the other guys movie?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's been a while, but yeah.
Okay.
You quoted it a month or so ago, so I had to watch it.
And
it's very good.
Yes. Thank you. For those who are out there who haven't seen the other guys on Netflix, go after this, but you go and watch the movie. Gator
don't play.
There's some phrases we definitely cannot say on this podcast, but they're pretty fun. They're pretty good. Will Ferrell's a comedic genius, in case you didn't know that.
All right, I need one more tight end riser. Zach, what do you got?
All right, so a tight end riser. I'm trying to think who I'm liking that's coming up. I'll say I think people are kind of forgetting. Kind of reminds me of Zach Ertz, same team, but Dallas Goedert. I think people with the AJ Brown news is like, Goedert's kind of off to the side, but I mean, he played really well the second half of last year, especially after Ertz left. And let's be honest, AJ Brown is great. He's not the most consistent, and I just think Goedert's kind of being slept on, and I can see his value rising as we get closer to the season with that offense. Because I mean, Jalen Hurts is going to have to throw a little bit more now. If they really want to get that offense moving, and this is kind of his year to shine. It's kind of his make or break year. So I guess he got her being that security blanket and just getting a lot of targets if you're in a PPR league.
Yeah, man, the ceiling on that Eagles team is insanely high. If Jalen Hurts is all of a sudden a top 10 quarterback with that entire team, I mean, good offensive line, good receiving weapons, strong defense, good secondary, good pass rushing. It's a really good roster. I would love to see that offense with a top 10 quarterback. So hopefully Jalen Hurts can do that for us.
It's crazy. It's after the trade on draft day, sending AJ Brown to Philadelphia from Tennessee, there was a contingent of people who were like, "Oh my God, well, this is going to tank AJ Brown's value. He's not going to be able to get the output that he had in Tennessee." And I forget who said it recently on a pod or on a video, but you're telling me that AJ Brown's not going to flourish in Philadelphia, going from a run-first offense to Philadelphia is also a run-first offense, like with low passing volume. Like it's the same situation with a better quarterback. So for those who were able to, so for those who were able to capitalize on that little dip after the trade on draft day, pat yourselves on the back. Both shoulders. Or I guess that's a hug. You're hugging yourself. Do that too, because you definitely
makes me feel cozy.
That's good. I'm glad.
All right. So, we talked about some guys that have increased in value. Gator J says Hurts should be a top 7 quarterback. Give him all the weapons he could ask for. Sanders and Gainwell should be very good too. I agree. Jalen Hurts should be a top 7 quarterback. I just hope he's a top 10 actual quarterback. That is kind of what I was saying when I said top 10. Anything lower than top 10 for Jalen Hurts with his running ability, I would say is a letdown for this season.
As a Washington fan, I do not second that. I do not want him to be a top 10 quarterback, but that's just me.
And as a Cowboys fan, I second that motion.
Oh man, I can't wait until the Eagles and Cowboys are battling for the NFC East in Week 18, both trying to get their 10th win.
I can't wait till Carson Wentz gets his redemption when I'm playing using him in Madden as opposed to watching the real football, whatever.
They had us in the first half.
I thought we were about to start a therapy session here. And
it's like, Jorge, I hate to break it to you, but...
Oh man. All right. So enough positivity here. Let's get some negativity in here. We need some off-season fallers for this year. Let's start with running back, and let's start with you, Charlie.
My off-season faller for this year is going to be Nick Chubb. Obviously, you've got that controversy with Deshaun Watson. You don't really know if he's going to play, how long he's going to play. And also, you got Kareem Hunt, who I think could possibly outscore Nick Chubb for the fantasy football season in PPR leagues. And you've got Jacoby Brissett. You don't know how good of a quarterback he is with the wide receivers that they have. Amari Cooper, solid player, but I think that defenses are going to definitely focus on the run for Cleveland. And so pass catching is going to be even more of an option now than ever before. I don't think just pure running is going to be viable for this Browns offense anymore. So Nick Chubb will still have, a pretty solid year, but if you can trade him for a couple solid players, then I would do that for sure.
Oh, I don't know if you watched the Browns much last year, Charlie.
Gator J.
But wait, is Gibson good in Madden?
Just stop it, Gator.
Oh man. Anyway, I don't know if you watched the Browns much last year, but Baker Mayfield was really, really bad. And Nick Chubb was still the running back 13. Granted, Kareem Hunt was injured. So I really like the prospects for Kareem Hunt this year. I still feel pretty strongly about Nick Chubb's value and just how good of a running back he is. But I guess I don't know. Where do you have him valued, Charlie? Running back, what, 15, 16?
Yeah, I would say around there. Also, you mentioned Baker Mayfield. He did have that shoulder injury, in that shoulder area for a majority of the season. That was kind of hindering him. And also he had that issue with Odell and Jarvis Landry, kind of trying to demand targets and all that. So I think it was just a complete mess in Cleveland. So I don't know. I'm not really big on Chubb this year.
All right. Let's do one more running back. What do you got for me, Jorge?
I understand, and I wrote an article about this player. I understand the hype around Khalil Herbert. I get it. He's good. He had a great rookie year. He has the opportunity potentially to usurp David Montgomery after the season's over. If the Bears don't want to pay Montgomery, what he thinks he's going to be worth in free agency. David Montgomery's good. He's a good running back. Like I think people are just forgetting just how good he is. And look, he was good in a Matt Nagy coached team, in a Matt Nagy offense that was just atrocious the past few seasons. Yeah, he got banged up a little bit last year, and that's where Herbert got his time to shine, and he did. But I think people are fading on David Montgomery a little bit too much, and he's one of the fallers that you're seeing in ADP right now. And Herbert's on the rise because he's probably cheaper in terms of assets you need to acquire him. But it is shocking just how much he's descending down the ADP ladder here, and he, you never know. Mid-season you can make a trade. You can make a trade whenever you want to in Dynasty. That's the beauty of Dynasty fantasy football. As you see the usage for Herbert go up, I would, the managers for David Montgomery, they're going to be, oh my God, where am I going to offload this guy? He's not going to have a team next year. Get him. Go get him. If Khalil Herbert has a 130-yard, 2-touchdown game, I'm getting my phone, I'm opening my app, and I'm sending a trade offer for David Montgomery because I think, whoever has him is going to be panicking.
Yeah, I like it. As a Khalil Herbert fanboy, I'm crazy about him. I think he's a really good running back, but you are right. David Montgomery is a very good running back, and he is going to be a fantasy football asset. And the value that Khalil Herbert has will likely be as the number 2 running back because they can have fantasy value, and that's okay. It doesn't mean David Montgomery is not going to be a top 12 running back, which he very possibly and really should be, regardless of the weapons around Justin Fields. All right. I want to do one quarterback faller. Zach, what do you got?
For quarterback, let's see. I would have to go with Aaron Rodgers. Has to be an easy one of the big name guys that you would think would have value, but at his age and his lack of, we'll call it, commitment to football, I would be very,
oh, you're serious? That wasn't a joke. I'm sorry. I thought that was my bad. Sorry.
I mean, it's a joke and serious, but
it's a joke because it's serious. Yeah.
It's funny because it's true. If he's on your team, he's probably retiring on your roster. And if you are drafting now, I don't really want anything to do with Aaron Rodgers. As big of a name as he is, as talented as he is, I'm just scared of that offense. I think the running backs will be great this year. Those wide receivers do not inspire me. And who knows what that team's going to look like next year if he's still even playing next year. So if he is on your roster right now, I would be trying to trade him away, but you're probably not getting much for him. And that's why he's a faller. And if you're in a startup, then I would rather take some younger upside guys than going with an aging Aaron Rodgers.
So by what you just said, you've made answering this question from Gator J that much more easy. He's asking, would you rather have David Montgomery or Christian Watson in a 2024 first? Because of the uncertainty with Aaron Rodgers, I would kind of lean towards Montgomery. He's still young. He's still got wheels on him. And if this year, if anything, with Khalil Herbert coming onto the scene, it's going to save him in terms of touches and hits and whatnot. Keep him more fresh, as he goes into wherever he goes next year. So I'm leaning towards Montgomery over Christian Watson in the 24 first. I know everybody wants to get in on the whole young. Let's get younger. Let's get let's get ahead of the curve here. But let's also remember we have a bona fide producer who's still young versus a lot of uncertainty at the quarterback situation for this wide receiver, and who knows what the draft class is going to be like in 2024. Does anybody have any counterpoint to this, or is somebody taking the Christian Watson side?
If I'm rebuilding, I'll take Watson in the 24 first because Watson's still a young asset. So he's very raw, but there's a higher chance that his value goes up, or it's going to stay the same. At the 24 first, I know we're still talking about the 23 class, but I've seen the 24 class is supposed to be pretty solid as well, and that's still an asset you can trade before you even get to the 2024 season. Whereas Montgomery, he is playing well now, but I believe this is his last year of his contract, and he's a free agent next year if he's not re-signed by the Bears. So who knows what opportunity he has next year as well. So if I'm a contender, Montgomery is the easy choice for me because that could be a piece that helps you win the championship. But if I don't think I'm contending this year, then I'd rather take the young asset and a pick that I can even tie into another trade.
Nice. Thanks for the question, Gator.
Yes. All right. We're going to do one tight end faller, and then we're going to close out with wide receiver fallers because wide receivers are way more fun to talk about than tight end. So I'm going to throw my tight end faller out there, and I'm going to say Noah Fant. There were some high hopes for him. Obviously, I mean, he is a 99th percentile athlete. He's an absolute freak. Everything he did at the combine, everything he can do just on the field is freak level, and that's awesome. However, he went to the Seattle Seahawks. It's where tight ends tend to go to die. It's good that Russ isn't there anymore because like I said a little while ago, Russ gets down into the huddle. He gets on a knee. He looks his tight end in the eye, and he just flips him off. And he just holds that middle finger there while he's calling the play. So
harsh but accurate.
But yeah, the Seahawks don't seem to have much of a plan offensively. I guess their plan is kind of, I don't know, Bryce Young maybe. But they also have a good receiver, a very good receiver in DK Metcalf. They have a very good receiver in Tyler Lockett. The team wants to run the ball. Noah Fant is probably not in the top two options in that passing game with terrible quarterbacks and maybe a rookie next year. So I just don't really have much interest in Noah Fant. Are you any of you guys into Noah Fant, or I'm not alone on that?
Nope, you are not alone.
All right,
that's the analysis right there.
Hashtag analysis.
Hashtag analysis. You are not alone.
Yes, CJ Stroud as well. But we shall see. All right, I want to do a couple wide receivers, and we're going to get out of here. Charlie, give me a wide receiver faller.
Yeah, for me, my wide receiver faller is going to be Elijah Moore. I know a lot of people were very high on him last year and are still very high on him this year, but the Jets did use a top 10 pick on Garrett Wilson, so they're going to use Garrett Wilson in this offense. I could see Elijah Moore as possibly a wide receiver too if Corey Davis doesn't get the production that he was getting in Tennessee, but yeah, Elijah Moore not going to cut it for me. I could see his ADP dropping in the next probably month or two if Garrett Wilson, any good news on Garrett Wilson comes out, or if Garrett Wilson has a good season. I don't think Elijah Moore will be that fantasy relevant what we once thought he was.
Ah, yes. Makes me very sad. But did you see what Elijah Moore's 190 pounds? Was I the only one that got that sleeper notification?
No, I got that. Yeah, I saw that.
Okay. I look at that and I'm like, why? Why is this happening? Can we just have camp start already?
I got that right after we got the Leonard Fournette 260-pound notification. So I was a little more concerned about that one. The Elijah Moore 190, that one's not that bad, but yeah.
Don't forget we got the Najee Harris earlier too.
Oh yeah,
I missed that one. What was that one? I didn't catch that.
That was like 2 months ago. Now it was like 245 or something.
Oh right, yeah.
He's like, right. He's like, I always played that, or like I play at 235. The weights are all inflated. Everything's. Who cares?
Yeah. But they also just kind of glossed over the fact that Najee was just like jacked. He wasn't Fat Lenny, and now she came in just enormous. He'd just been in the weight room all off season. But also, let's not forget about Leonard Fournette. He's done this before. He's generally a pretty lazy guy when it comes to when you're talking professional football players and these guys that are absolute maniacs in the offseason. Lenny comes into camp 250, 260, especially in Tampa when they start camp next week. Oh boy, he's going to lose 40 pounds in a week.
Got Gator J saying Tampa needs a solid tight end. Lenny is just getting to size. Love it.
I mean, in Lenny's defense, he did just get a 3-year contract, and Tom Brady retired for like 45 days. So, I mean, he thought he just had to like show up. So, we'll get him back into shape.
By the way, I love that everyone's starting to call him Lenny now. Like, I don't know. For me, I just find that funny. I don't know.
Playoff Lenny.
Yeah, he called himself Playoff Lenny and Lombardi Lenny. It just kind of it works. I personally enjoy saying Lenny a lot more than I do Leonard.
I once heard his name pronounced Leonard. I'm not going to say who said it, but it was quite hilarious when I did finally hear that pronunciation.
I can't unhear that now.
Yeah, I don't
Leonard, what's going on, man?
Yeah, I don't like that at all.
It's too close to Leonardo, and that's infringing on Ninja Turtles territory right there.
Yeah, you need that O at the end. You can't do just Leonard.
I agree. I agree completely.
All right, Jorge, take us out with one more wide receiver faller.
This wide receiver, it's not like really shocking that he is a faller. It's Robert Woods. He goes from a great situation in terms of passing offense in Los Angeles. He goes to Tennessee. I have not heard one thing good or bad about Ryan Tannehill this offseason, which leads me to believe that it's probably not good news. I know the old saying, no news is good news. I don't think that applies into this situation right here. I have heard reports from coaches that Robert Woods has been doing well in his recovery. He's right where he should be, if not a little bit ahead of schedule. But it's kind of sad. I'm a huge fan of Robert Woods. I met him once. He was very gracious, very kind. But he's in a bad situation, in a bad offense. But then again, if he's able to come back to anywhere close to where he was health-wise, he's their number one target. I know everyone wants to talk about I totally forgot his name. The rookie that they drafted, Treylon Burks. Yeah, everyone wants to crown this guy, and it's like, hey, you still got Robert Woods there. If he's there, he's going to be the wide receiver one for this team. So, yeah, that's who I got for my follow right there at wide receiver.
Yes, very sad. I really like. I'm still a fan of Bobby Trees for this year. I like him. I don't know if no news is bad news for Ryan Tannehill. I think it's just kind of Ryan Tannehill.
Come on. Ryan Tannehill was like a top 12 quarterback in fantasy the past few years. Not last year, but a couple of years prior. Like he was Mr. Tannehill, And
actually, I think he finished around QB 12 last year. But
okay, we'll see.
Thought it. It was a very pedestrian.
Yes,
QB12.
He's a very pedestrian
QB 12.
Ryan Tannehill is fine. He is the 15th to 16th best quarterback in the NFL. He played, everyone forgets he played wide receiver in college. He still has a little bit of that athleticism. He can rack up a few points on the ground, and that's where he gets those inflated QB numbers from. He's good for 400 to 500 rushing yards a year and a few touchdowns.
Did he get like 7 touchdowns? Was it last year or 2 years ago? Like he put up some crazy rushing touchdowns recently.
Yeah, I know one year he had near, I think, like 700 yards and 7 touchdowns. So yeah, I think he's still useful. He's probably a good contender buy.
And let's not forget, like when all the pieces of this Titans offense are clicking, like they click. And by pieces, I mean the 3 of them: Tannehill, Derrick Henry, and whoever the number 1 wide receiver is going to be. So if all 3 are able to stay healthy, it comes down to if Derrick Henry is able to stay healthy and go back to where things were, and defenses are now loading the box. And I still think Robert Woods, he has great wide receiver 1 value for your team, or wide receiver 1 upside. Well, I shouldn't say wide receiver 1. Wide receiver 2 upside, flex upside. Not somebody who's been thrown to the wayside. like he is now currently.
I mean, they were the number one AFC team last year.
Everyone forgets that. Every single person I talk to, completely except for you now, forgets that. Yeah, it's nuts. It's nuts. The disrespect.
Yes. Much disrespect toward the Titans. They
Exactly.
kind of deserve it. Hey, listen, I'm not the one who traded AJ Brown. All right.
So, Charlie, we did a live broadcast of the first round of the NFL draft this year, and right when the trade happened, Tyler live on screen during the broadcast absolutely lost it. He went completely ape. You know what? He was like, "What are they like?" We had somebody on here who was actually a Titans fan, and he was nowhere near the level of angry that Tyler was. It made for some good comedy on draft night. I'll tell you that much.
Yes.
That sounds like fun. That sounds fun.
Next year, you'll know. You'll experience the craziness.
Oh yeah,
It'll be fun. All right, let's we're gonna land this proverbial plane. So Jorge, what do you have going on fantasyandframes.com?
So right now we wrapped up our Dynasty Target series, where you can read about all these 20+ players on offense and on IDP on the IDP side of the ball. Shout out to Zach for all the awesome graphics he's been doing here for us at Fantasy and Frames. And right now, we're getting closer to redraft season, and if not, we are in redraft season in the early stages of it. You should be looking for our division previews, where we're basically going to be doing a whole lot of stuff. We're going to be basically breaking down every single position, every single relevant player from every single position per division. It's going to be a big article. And I know the attention span of people is not to read huge articles, but you're going to have this encyclopedia per division of all this information. And then we're going to take chunks of that and we're going to put that all over so that you can, don't worry about having to, re-up your Adderall or Vyvanse like I would have to. You could just get the short chunks of information, whether you're on Instagram, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on TikTok. We're going to have all these informations, whether on YouTube. We're going to have all this stuff broken down for you so you can sort through it however you like. But we're going to have these huge novels of information that you can go to during your draft or prep for draft day. Your draft day, the next thing we're working on is we're getting ready for the Fantasy Football Expo. That's coming up pretty soon, the second week in August. I'm super excited for going back. Fantasy and Frames has been at the Expo every year that they've had it. And last year was phenomenal. It's going to be phenomenal this year. So we're putting together stuff for our booth. We're going to have some cheat sheets that you can take some notes on, take with you during your drafts. We got a lot of stuff around the corner, so we're gearing up. We got Shoot the Gap on Thursdays. We got Fourth and Frames coming back next week. We got all of our podcasts clicking. Everybody here at Fantasy Frames is just doing a tremendous job. You should follow all of us here. Great work all around.
Yes, and don't forget about the Daily Fix with Keith Fleming and Joe Matz. They're going to be covering DFS for us all season. I'm very excited. Make sure you follow all of us on Twitter. Please, if you enjoyed the show, like and subscribe on your podcast platform of choice, whether it be Apple or Spotrac or some random other thing.
Yes.
So, yes. And you can find me on Twitter at FFTylerHeil. Jorge, where can they find you?
They can find me at Jorge B. Edwards, but I'd rather you follow Fantasy in Frames. Go to at Fantasy in Frames on Twitter.
And follow Zach at FF Chalupa Batman. And Charlie, I'm going to let you say that one.
It's just Charlie the Third. It's my name. Twitter didn't allow me to do just Charlie, so I had to put a 3 for the E. So thanks to Twitter, I got to buy out whoever had that username. So follow this account on Twitter. Also, I have a Twitter account for my Dynasty Football League team at Sheen Regime DF. So it's in my bio on this Twitter account. So follow that. I'm going to be posting for my team. Hopefully we win the chip this year, God willing. So check out those accounts.
There you go. I like it. All right. Well, that was fun. Thank you everyone for joining. And we will see you next time. See you next week.